All right. First thing I want to mention is the library. I have bought new books for the library. Here it is. So this came in last week. And so if you're a book learner, feel free to grab these. These are currently situated at the research help desk in the library. So if you walk past the front desk and on your way to the research help desk, they'll have all of these books on the book cart. This one in particular, Getting Mean, that will be useful for when you take comp1073, which is basically your Node, Express, Angular, and Mongo. And so you can see I bought mostly JavaScript books. This one here, Beginning Git, this would be useful to learn Git more in depth. So keep that in mind. If you're a book learner, you can borrow that right now for free at the library. Second thing I want to mention is you should install this extension called Live Server. Live Server in VS Code. If you're looking for a local server, right? Sometimes you want to serve your own web pages. For me, I use this one called Live Server. So check it out. Let's try here. Say index.html. I'm just going to create an index.html. I'm just going to say hello world in this one. Hello world. Okay, so now I'm going to serve this up. Yeah, I could have just opened this file up in Chrome browser, but I could just say go live. So you can see this go live, which comes with that extension, Live Server. So if I click it, I should see hello world right there. So it's serving up my, and not only that, if I make a change, let's make a change, h2 by world, and if I click save and I go immediately back, it's already there. I don't have to click on refresh button. Whereas in the past, when I just opened the file, I had to click refresh button. So that's a tool that you may find useful if you want one. You don't have to use it right now, but in the future. Assignment number 1, again, as a reminder, is due Monday at midnight. Now, in the past few days, I noticed in my Blackboard I have like a bunch of new students. I guess the last day to add it and drop a course was back on Friday. So for those students who just were added a few days ago, I'm going to extend the due date until just before the midterm. So all exercises, all labs, all quizzes are now due just the midnight before midterm. Okay? What does that mean for all of you? Technically, you could hand it in the day before midterm too, so I'm extending it to you too, if you want to. However, don't let that be a temptation. In other classes, when I've done that, I've experimented with different due dates. That could be a trap for you. If you're like me and you tend to procrastinate, that could kill you. Yeah, assignment 1 technically could be due the day before midterm. But do you really want to wait the last day until you hand in all 6 weekly labs, exercises, quizzes, and 2 assignments all pretty much in the last year? So like, for those of you who are keeping up, pretend that you didn't hear what I just said. Just keep up. For those who came in late, you have that extension. Okay? Another thing I wanted to mention, which I didn't really make clear last time, is that in the weekly labs, what I'm going to do is I'm going to always ask you to host it. So here in the last week's lab, I asked you to upload your completed lab on the GitHub repository, then host it on GitHub Pages. So each week I'm going to ask you to host it in a different place, and then after a while you can host it wherever you want. A word about the GitHub Pages. I know a lot of you, when you uploaded it, it didn't appear right away. And let me see if I can figure out, let me see if I could, hold on. Give me a second. Let me, I don't want to record. Ah, shoot, I can't. I'm recording, I don't want to show the full grades on my, let me try, Ralph, what was your thing? What was your GitHub pages, remember?
The whole thing?
Yeah, hold on. Oh, wait, oh shoot. JavaScript Lab 2. But what was your username?
That will be a Long John Silver Q.
Oh, there, I think I saw it. Right, okay, there. I got it. Okay, so Originally, what Ralph gave me, what the heck? So originally in Blackboard for Lab 2, what Ralph gave me was this URL here, I believe. No, it was this first. Okay, so he submitted this. Was that right? Or no, actually, you should have seen some kind of. Hold on. Oh, there it is. I mistyped this one. I mistyped the com there. There. So a lot of you had this, and you're wondering, where's my page? The reason why it's not showing your page is because after the slash, you're supposed to type either the file name itself, like lab2.html, or the path and then the file name. So like slash, your folder name, slash lab2.html, whatever it was. So what I had to do was I had to kind of reverse engineer this URL that you gave me, say, okay, well, I know this is his GitHub username, so if I just go like, let me copy this, open up a new tab, I'll say, okay, well, knowing that this is his username, most likely it's github.com/his username. And then I looked in your repositories and say, oh, there it is. There it is. And then I kind of looked at your code that way. But then if you wanted to go backwards, say, okay, here's the proper file name, lab2-comp1073.html. So now if I copy that and go back to the original one that didn't work and just paste in that file name and enter, it should work. Okay? And if it still doesn't work, then maybe this was embedded in another folder. And so you have to include the other folder and then your file name. That's why. So that's why it wasn't working. Okay. Let's also have, beginning today, let's also have it so that all our JavaScript code is in a separate file, a separate .js file, instead of embedded within a .html file. And the reason will become apparent in a second. Yes. Okay, so for this week's lab, for lab 3, I'm going to ask you to host it on a place called Netlify. So you don't have to create an account. As long as you have a GitHub account, you can log in using your GitHub. So this is how it works. So netlify.com, and then you can log in just using, oh yeah, okay, I wonder if I could sign out for a second. There, you should get one of this. Log in using one of the following. So if you already have a GitHub account, go ahead and click that, GitHub, and you should be in Netlify. And Netlify is everyone's loves Netlify these days. All the web developers just love Netlify. I kind of think of this as like the workflow for you is kind of like Azure. Have you, show of hands, who's worked with Azure in other classes? Yeah, so it's kind of like Azure, but it's actually faster. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say new site from Git, and I'm going to pick and because I signed in with GitHub, it already sees all my repositories. Step number 1 is connect to a Git provider, so I'm going to choose GitHub here. Step 2 is pick a repository. So now that I signed in with GitHub, it knows all my repos, and I could choose whatever repo I want. I'm just going to choose this one, which is the week 1. And then step 3, build options and deploy. So I'm just going to click on deploy. And then see what happens. Site deploy in progress. There, I get a new URL, whatever.netlify.com. So if I go to that URL, I should see the guests from week 1. There it is. Okay, so this week's lab, I want you to publish it on Netlify, which requires you to have a GitHub account. Okay. Let's see. For those of you who are still wondering about Git and GitHub and how that works, let me just show you something real quick. I'm going to show you my GitHub account here. So watch what happens. I'm going to create a new repository. Okay. So I'll just say new repository. Just say testing for now. Oh, I can't use that. 1. Okay. So I created a new repository. I'm going to go into VS Code and upload some new code. Let me just open a brand new folder on my desktop. I'm going to create a new index HTML file with some JavaScript. Okay, and I'm going to now upload this using the command line. So what I do here is I'll say git init, so that initializes the directory with a hidden folder called .git. And then I'll say add my files, so git add, the dot means current directory, so now it just added all my files. I'll say from this point on, I'll just say this. I just copy all of this from the git commit on down to the push, and then paste it in. So as soon as I right click, it kind of does it for me, except for the last lines, which I have to press enter for the last line. And it basically kind of like FTPs your work under the hood, if you want to think of it that way. So now if I go, so now that it uploaded, now if I refresh this repository, it should have my code there, and there it is. Okay, now let's say, now here's the new thing that I want to mention. Let's say I made a change. So let's add h2, right? I save it, and I want to now push it back up here so that if I refresh, I want to see that change here. Because right now, if I see this, it's still the original H1. So how do I do that? Same thing, git add all my files, and then git commit. I put a -m there, and inside a quote, the -m stands for a message. So, you know, edited my HTML file, like that. And then the last line is just simply git push, and that will start the upload process. As that finishes, which is now doing, there, finished. That means if I refresh this now, you should see it. So that's how Git is used. It keeps track of the different variations of your code. So if you ever need to go back, you can always do that through other Git commands. Okay. Yeah, so let's say that you made an adjustment to your code and you published it, deployed it, and now it's on the public web and your website doesn't work anymore because of that last change. What you could do is you could tell Git through some Git command, Git, I'm not going to show it here, but you could tell it to go back a step and then publish that kind of thing. Or Netlify also has that feature too. Yeah. Okay, let's see. A word about this. You might see code. Let's create a button here. Whatever. You might see code that looks like this. Let me magnify that. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but you could see something like, you know, run my function. Whatever. Did I talk about this before in last class? No. So this technically could work. Like if I had a script tag here and I had a function here called run me, and then I told her to do something. That would work. Let's just see. Let me open that with live server this time. Oh, where's my live server? Thing one, index, click, and it works. See, it works, but this style of JavaScript where you're putting the on-click in here, that's called inline code or inline JavaScript. So that's considered bad practice. Don't do that. And the reason why it's considered bad practice is because you're littering your HTML code with unneeded JavaScript. You want your HTML5 code to be clean, like that. And then on the JavaScript side, that's where you can do the the document.query selector to grab this element and then do whatever you want with it. Okay, that's all I want to say about that. All right, I'm going to pull up a student's work for Lab 2 that didn't work, and let's go through it and try to solve this. Let's see. So let's run this, see what it looks like. So at first glance, it kind of looks okay. Until you realize when you hover it, it's not truly a link when you hover over it. So what's happening? And when you look at the markup, what's happening is that all of these airport codes have a class of cod, which he defined to have the color appear. So it's all just hard-coded HTML, which is not what I'm looking for. I want the HTML to be dynamically inserted, right, through here. So let's see, first of all, if there's any console errors. Console J. Cannot set property inner HTML of null. And what line number does that occur? 98. So let's look at 98. Because at 98, there's going to be something to the left of the dot. So whatever is to the left of the dot here, that's the troublesome thing, that's null. So line 98. Oh, it's here, line 97. I think. Yeah. So inner HTML, the left of the dot, it's complaining about, oops, it's complaining about this guy right here, list item. So where is that defined? Let's connect the dots. Let's go up. OK, it's defined right here. Is the spelling OK? Yep, the spelling looks good. So the problem has to be on the right side of the equation here. So something about this it does not like. Okay, let's walk through this. Now, I'm going to show you a new thing. Last week, I showed you through Excel, like step by step. This week, I'm going to show you step by step through a different process. And this is where you need to have a separate file for JavaScript. This will not work if your script is embedded inside your HTML. So I'm just going to take this off. Cut. I'm going to open up, I'm just going to create a new JavaScript file, call it whatever you want, .js, paste it in, save it. And then here, what do we need to do to connect the two? Let me ask, I don't know, who wants to volunteer that? Let me ask, let's start on this side. No, I don't know your name, so let's start on this side. Josie, what do you think? How do I connect my HTML file, oops, to my index.js file so it works? What do I have to say here? Yeah, I'd have to type in script, and then source, and then the file name. Keep in mind that file name could be embedded in a folder. If so, you may have to make sure that you're putting the right folder name, / whatever. You know. So let's see if that worked. Refresh. Yeah, OK, good. So it worked because I'm still seeing the error. Here's the new way. And I want all of you to do this when you're stuck on a bug. And you're saying, why isn't it working? I want you in the very first line to type this word, debugger. This is what's going to happen. If you refresh, because I live served it, it's already refreshing now. Let me shut off my live server for a sec. If you refresh, oh right, I'll do it the traditional way. All right, if you refresh, notice first of all, it's not loading the complete page yet. It's kind of hanging. And the reason why it's hanging is because this debugger causes it to hang right there. And this is great because now you can see on the right-hand side your different variable names eventually, and you're going to see what's inside those variable names. So what I can do from here is I can click on this icon, which says step over next function, which will go line by line. So let's try it out. So if I click on step, it goes to the next line. So first of all, what do you think this line is supposed to do? What's the purpose of this line? Well, let's see. Let's see what happens if we just execute it. You already know what query selector does. It's supposed to select something on the page. Let's see if it actually does that. So let's say run. OK, so now it ran. That means I should see this airport list on the right-hand side as a variable name. There. Ah, but look. The value of that is null. So something was wrong with this. So now you can focus your efforts on this. This is not even JavaScript anymore. This is more like CSS, right? So let's look at the structure of the HTML for a second, which is right here. Okay, so the student wanted to look at the body tag. Okay, that's here, so that's everything in there. Then, following that, there had to be a div tag nested in there somewhere. So the first, there you go. So we're in here now. Table underneath that. Okay, table underneath that. T-head underneath that. Okay, I find that. T-body under that. Where's T-body under here? Where do you see T-body under here? Yeah, it's beside it right here. So this is wrong. That's why it gave null, right? So let's change that code. You basically want T-body is what I think you wanted to do. You don't have to say body. You just say there's only one T-body, so that's fine. So let's see. Let's refresh that now. Okay, let's refresh. Let's see if this works now. So run. So now that I'm here, I should have this line complete. Let's see. Whoops. There. See? Notice when I hover over it, it's telling me that it got the right place on the web page. Cool. Then what does this line do? Who's next? So Young. What is this? Oops. What does this line do? Huh? No? So okay. So take it from here. What is airport list? Airport list was what we just defined up here. So it's that table that we had, and you're saying inside the table tag, which is what you're saying when you're saying inner HTML. Inside that table tag, make it nothing, an empty string. So if I click on run, boom. So there, it did it. It executed it. Notice there's no more table, right? Let's prove that. Let's go to the elements, right? And let's look at the table tag. Table. I should see a T-body with nothing in it. See, there's nothing in it. I can't. There's no arrow here to expand it because there's nothing in there, right? So that's what happened when you said, oops. When you said .inner HTML equals empty string, you just emptied that table tag of markup. Does that make sense? So Young? Does that make sense? Okay. Next, what are we doing? Keon, in this line here, what are we doing? Yeah, we're just defining a constant called airports with an array of how many elements? 5, right? So if I click on this, I should now see a new variable there. There it is, an airport containing an array. You know it's an array because it has the square bracket there and containing 5 elements. If you want to expand it even more, you could see all those 5 elements. Cool. Great. Now we're entering into the for loop. So it's coming in here, I equals undefined at first, but as soon as it goes to the next line, I'm sure I will be 0. Let's try that. Oh, it goes there. Okay, so go into the next line. So I is currently 0. Where's I? There it is. I is 0. Airport's length, that's 5. So what are we doing here? Next person beside, was it Margot? Yeah, Margot. What do you think is happening with this? What is this line doing? Yeah, so what's I right now? What value is I? 0? What does that mean for this whole airport's I? What value does that give you? No? Okay, let me ask you this. Airports, what is airports? Which is defined up here. It's an array, right? An array of 5 elements. The I is 0, meaning it's the first element in the array. So what's the first element in the array? Yeah, the whole string, Beijing, blah, blah, blah. That's what it's giving you. So imagine this is being replaced by the whole string Beijing. And then now you're assigning that whole string into input. That's what's happening. Okay? Great. So next line, what is happening here? Justin 2. Yeah.
So yeah, it's making a new comment index. It's assigning it to the index number of the comma.
Perfect. Excellent technical communication points. All right. So index of comma, what this does is it will look inside this string for the comma and return the number of where that comma was found. So the string that we're dealing with right now is this. The comma that is placed here, which happens to be the 29th position in that string, right? So if you begin here and you go 1, 2, 3, you'll eventually come here, which is 29. So that means comma index is now 29. Let's see if that happens by clicking this. Okay, run it. So now I should see comma index somewhere on the right-hand side. There it is, 29. Cool. What is happening here, Adam?
Creating a variable name or a constant airport name.
Good.
And it's assigning a slice of input that starts at the first index and goes all the way to that 29.
Right. So starting at what slice does is it looks at the string starting at 0, which is what we specified here. Starting at 0 all the way to 29. So 0 is here, 29 is here. Slice that out of the string and return it. So that means this airport name at the end of the day should have just Beijing Capital International. Let's see if it includes the comma or not. That'll be interesting. Let's see if we're off by 1. Run it. Okay, so airport name is done. Where is it? It's right here. I want to see the full. Does it include the comma? No, it doesn't. Okay, great. Wonderful. Next, what's happening here? Chris? No, okay. It's a constant is being defined called airport code index. And what's the value of it right now? It's we don't know yet until this is evaluated. So let's see. Input, what is input? It is the string that was defined up here. So right now we're all working with this entire string here. Okay, so imagine this entire string. I'm going to copy that and put it here. Where are we at? Yeah, we're here. So the slice -3, if you were to look at the documentation MDN slice, oh, that's the array slice. I think we wanted the string slice. MDN string slice. So last class I said you could also use negative numbers. The negative numbers start at the very end of the sentence and then goes backwards. So -4 is like you start backwards, go 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's going to return dog period, which is why it's dog period there. So same thing here. Slice -3. It's going to start at the end of the string, which is this one. Here's the entire string. It's going to start at the end, 1, 2, 3. So it's going to return PEK. So PEK will be assigned to airport code index. Does that make sense, Chris? Yeah. Okay, so let's run it out to make sure, and let's see. So I ran it. That means this variable should be populated with there, PEK. This one here, same kind of thing. We did a couple of different off by 1 things just to get the URL. So let's just run that. We did that last week. There we go. So the URL is now populated with this, right? So we extracted this from the string through that whole dot slice comma index plus 1. Comma index, right, gives you 29 plus 1 gives you 30. So it starts here, and then the end was take the length of the string, subtract 3. So the length of the string starts here, subtract 3, 1, 2, 3, and it ends there. So it begins here, ends here, and extract that entire string. Trim it. The trim means take away the white space. So really now we're dealing with just that. And then put that value inside airport URL. And that's what we have here. See, there's no spaces, right? Okay. Now, this student, I guess, was trying to do the average character length. So they started off with, the character length of I guess, the first airport name, and I'm assuming they want to do something with this later. However, check this out. If I step over it now, okay, so cars is empty. So this line here, I'm not sure what they wanted to do with this. They said they wanted to replace the airport name with an empty string and assign it to cars, but now look, cars is just an empty string, and now you're saying cars.length and assign that to cars length. So cars length will be 0. So I'm not sure where they're going with that. So here's car length is 0. Maybe they want to add it in the future. Oh, look, they want to add it. Okay, so let's step over that. Oh, error. What happened? Console error. Reference error. Total cars is not defined on line 33. Line 33. This one is not defined. So they just willy-nilly put that variable name without defining like const total characters or let total characters before. So we need to fix that. Maybe define it before the for loop. Total cars 0, and then maybe here now you could say total cars plus equals character length if that's what they wanted to do. We'll see. So let's refresh the browser. Let's see where we're at now. Refresh. Okay. Go. Okay. So here we last off ended up here. It's no longer giving the error, which is good. So we can step over that. Create an anchor link. So here right now hyperlink is the variable name that we're defining. Right now it's undefined because it has yet to finish all of this evaluation. So as you can see, we're using the backticks, right? You want to use the backticks if you're using the template literals. And so at the end of the day, it's going to produce a string that looks like an anchor tag, but instead of airport URL being literally there, it's going to substitute that with the actual airport URL that we got before. So what's airport URL? Airport URL is right here. So the value of that is that whole Google URL we had before. Airport code index will be substituted with PEK. Airport name will be substituted with the Beijing. So let's see what happens. If I click on run, hyperlink now, which is currently undefined, should now have that string there. It has that. Right, it has, you can see how the substitutions in place. You can see the URL, the code, the name. Cool. And so now that's being assigned to hyperlink, but then he doesn't do anything with hyperlink. Like, can you see anything, the word hyperlink anywhere here? No. That means this is, all the code we just did from hyperlink up was useless because they didn't do anything with it. What I think they should have done was replace this input with hyperlink so that it could be used. So let's change that now. So let's actually substitute hyperlink there and then see what happens. Let me just comment out these two for now. I don't want that to get in the way. Refresh and step. Okay, so here, let me explain what's happening here for a second. So document create element.td. That means the browser is in its mind, if you can imagine it. It's creating a TD element, but it's not placing it on your web page yet. But it has a TD element in its mind, and it's assigning that to list item. Okay, so here, list item now, you can think of it as a TD in memory somewhere. Oops. And then we're saying list item.inner HTML. So within that TD tag, assign my string, right? So that my list item should say like TD tag, and then inside that TD tag, it has my whole anchor tag here, kind of thing. And then here, it says append it to my airport list. What's airport list? Airport list was defined up here, which we then blew away. But it's basically the T body tag. So basically, at the end of the day, you have a T body tag, and then at the execution of this line, inside that T body tag, you now have a TD, and inside that TD, you have an anchor tag. Let's see what it does. Let's see if that's true. Execute there. So we just executed. We're back at the top of the loop. Let's see our airport list. Now, I expected to see something here. I don't. Let's see why that is. Let's look at the inspect body div. So I should see, if I expand this, I should see a T body, and inside the T body, I should see something. Ah, I do. See, I can expand T body now. Okay, I see all the TDs. Huh. So I see something there. Why don't I see it here? Look carefully. What's happening? This is not JavaScript. This is just HTML. Yeah. Yeah. So I think the closing tag of this anchor tag, the closing tag of this character should have been right there, and then you could see the text, right? And then you have the ending tag. But instead, something else is happening. So that means the markup was malformed. Now we have to go to the JavaScript where that was responsible and look at that more closely. So let's look at that. Oh, there, yeah. So right here is the href. You got the quote there. That means that we should end it right there, right? That closes the anchor tag, the first part of it. We have the ending tag here. I think that should work. Let's try it. Save that. Refresh. I'm back into debugger mode. I'm just going to click this to resume script. Just run it, the whole thing. There. It ran the whole thing. There. So now technically it's working. And then what's your next question as you see this? As your curiosity, you should always have a curious mind when coding. What's your next question when you see this? Why is it all in line if it's a table? Huh. I don't know. Let's see. Inspect again. Is there anything wrong with this table? TR. Who said that? Prath, right? There's no TR. You should put a TR. Where should that TR go? Maybe, how do you want to solve that, Prath? So I have a feeling you're going to either modify this line and or modify this line. What do you want to do? So you want to change this to TR, this one? This one? Yeah, you don't know? Let's try it. If I say TR, let's try it. Okay? And then if I refresh, let's see what happens. Oh, okay, it looks better. Let's run it again. Looks better. Now, is it still, it looks better, but is it semantically okay? No, because the TD is missing. What can I do to solve that, Prath? How can I put the TD in there? I want a TD right before the A. So the TD fits right after the TR. Then you have a TD, then you have the A, then you have the ending TD, then you have the ending TR. What can I do with this line right here to add a TD? What if I do this, Prath? What if I just add the TD? Would that work? Do you think? Let's try it. Just try it. TD. Okay, refresh. It looks the same, I'm sure, but inside the hood, see what's happening. There, that's semantically correct. TR, TD, that looks good. Good? Does that make sense? Yeah. Awesome. There, we fixed the code. Cool? All right. So big takeaway from that, I'm hoping, is you'll use the debugger from now on whenever you're stuck, and you'll constantly look at the variables to test your assumptions. Yeah. The HTML code again. Right here. This one. Let me go back. There. You mean here? So by adding the TD in front of the TA, in front of the A, then I have a nice, well-formed, semantically correct HTML. So basic HTML class, you have your TR, which is your row, and then inside your TR, you could have many TDs, right? Okay, good. So that's that. Any questions on that before we move on to our actual lesson? And I'm hoping like each beginning of the class, I'll take like a code and just go through it, so you'll again learn more. Yeah, Justin. I'd have to check the documentation between what's the difference between append and append child.
One is jQuery and one's a DOM method. I don't know what that means.
Okay. To tell you the truth, I never use the append child anyway. So that's, my opinion on this whole create element and append child, it's terrible. So I never use it.
So you just like use an existing.
I use inner HTML. Yeah, which we'll use today. All right, let's open up today's lesson in week 3. Let's open up this lesson files folder here. So go ahead and download this zip file, which I'll do right now. We'll go through arrays. And if you have any questions or comments, you can do so through this anonymous form. Okay, let's open this up. Oh, that's my thing. Never mind. Open this up called array. So let's open up this file called arrays.html. And you should see something like this. But I want you to open the code in your editor, whatever editor you're using. So let's go there now. All right. First thing I want to mention, before we even get into that, is, does everyone know the difference between copy by reference and copy by value of something? Have you heard of those terms? You? No? Okay, so this kind of touches what I was talking about last time about objects and arrays. So if I were to, let's say, declare fruit equals apple, okay, it's a primitive data type. If I say let fruit2 equals fruit, and then console log, as you can see, it's the same thing. Now the question I have is, this line here, does this line take copy by value, meaning to say it takes the value of that and then places the value of that in here, or does it copy by reference, meaning wherever this is located in terms of memory addresses, it takes the address of where that's located and stores the address in here? The answer for this is simply, this is copy by value. Okay, it takes the value of this and then stores it in here. No big deal. You already know that. It's basic. The only thing is that if you're dealing with arrays or objects like this, so let's say array1 equals like this, and then say let my array2 equals my array1. So if I console log my array1, console log my array2, it looks like it's the same thing. However, it's copied by reference because we're dealing with arrays, and arrays are copied by reference. So what's really happening is this line, it doesn't say, hey, what's the value of this? Oh, the value of this is this whole array. Let me copy by value this whole array, use up some processing time, use up some more memory so that I'll have a new memory allocation for a new array that never existed before, and then store that into my array too. No, it's not doing that. It's just looking at the address of where this is located in memory. Let's suppose that this is located in memory block number 102. So it stores that address 102 and puts that pointer, if you will, inside here. That way you're saving memory. You're not wasting memory. You're just pointing it to the same memory block as this was located. That's what the difference is. Does that make sense? Okay, so when you're dealing with arrays or objects, it's being passed by reference, not by value. Let's go back to what Justin was talking about. I never personally use the crate element or the append element. I just use the inner HTML. And so what does that do? Let's say we had, let's say what's it? Okay, I'm going to now insert hello world into here. But it's going to be, I'm just going to put paragraph tags around it. Or maybe I'll just do it here. Maybe I'll do it here. So instead of this paragraph here being this text, I'm going to blow this text away. And then I'm going to substitute it with maybe some HTML tags like spans or strongs and see what happens. So this is the first P. So if I say let P equals document query, selector, and then it'll take the first P, right? There it is, P. So if I say p.inner HTML and give it some HTML, let's say, I don't know, we'll say hello, and then put a strong tag, world, and the strong tag. Then I could put some more HTML. But if I just said that, enter, right? So it changed everything inside that p tag to whatever I just said. So for Justin, that's why I don't use the create element and the append element. I just use the inner HTML. It's better, right? It kind of takes whatever tags you did under the hood. I'm sure under the hood it goes, okay, create element strong, append element strong inside the P. Like it does that dirty work for you. So I just use inner HTML. Later on, when you learn things like Angular, Vue, and React, you'll realize that under the hood they're doing the same kind of thing. You don't have to even touch inner HTML anymore. Vue, Angular, and React, they're doing that for you, and it's much easier. Yeah. Question, Emily. Two paragraphs, yeah. How would I select the second paragraph? Okay, good question. So the question is, how would I select the paragraph? Let me refresh this for a second. There were, how many paragraphs are there again? Yeah, so there's two paragraph tags. The empty one, the second one's empty. But let's say I wanted to select this one. How would I do that, Emily? Well, what's the CSS way to get the second element of that? Here. See, I just Googled CSS nth child. So did you learn this in any of your CSS? So I would put in this, right? Just think CSS. So let's try that. Let's try, where'd it go? So instead of this, plug in this. Oh, I should have assigned that to something else like P. Oh, did it do it or no? It did not do it. I was wrong. But now I'm curious why that didn't do it. I think. Oh wait, hold on. I think my CSS is wrong. Hold on. I think I need a. What's my tag above that tag? But what's the body? So what if I said body p nth child? Does that work? No. If I said h was. See, this is where my poor CSS skills comes in. My strength is not in CSS. What was that, Adam? Okay. Whatever it is, that's CSS, and you let me know. I just want to move on because this is a JavaScript class. All right. Yeah, my strength is not in CSS, clearly. Oh, nth of type 2. Is that what you're talking about? Oh, yeah. And it's right here, nth of type. Okay, there's your answer, Emily. It's already here in Scott's code. P nth of type 2. There you go. All right. What else did I want to say? I wanted to mention this. In addition to inner HTML, you also have this. Something called insert adjacent HTML. So check it out. You can say element.insert adjacent HTML, give it a position, give it some text. Okay, so this is how it works. There's 4 different possible arguments you can give it. And this is the placement. Before begin, we'll insert the HTML before the p tag. After begin, we'll insert the HTML just after the p tag. Before end, we'll insert the HTML just before the ending p tag, and after end, just after the ending p tag. So here's an example. You have this, let's pretend you have this HTML, which you just grabbed through here. And you want to say, okay, insert adjacent HTML on this whole thing. After end, what does after end mean? It means after the last tag. That means after this div tag, insert the HTML of whatever I pass you here. So that at the end of the day, all of this appears after the end div tag, which it does. Okay, so you could do that too. And so I guess performance-wise, that would be better because you're just dealing with one rather than the whole thing. But just keep that in mind if you want to use that. Another thing I wanted to mention is this one here. And I don't know if you learned this through your free code camp yet. Something called spread syntax. So let's say you have an array. What the spread does is it'll pluck each element of the array and kind of like pluck it out and put it in your new array. And I think probably the best way to explain that is, let's say I had an array of 4, 5, 6. Let's say I had another array of 1, 2, 3. Okay. What I could do is I could just go ... A. And what that will do, oh, what did I do? Oh yeah, I need my equal sign, don't I? And what that will do is if I console log B, you can see it just kind of like the ... just takes whatever's in your array and just kind of plucks it out of there and just puts it in your new array in this case. Okay. That's a very powerful operator. You should know. Another thing you should know is all this time we've been using query selector, okay? What if I want to select more than one? There's something here called query selector all. So let's say I wanted to go to, let's go to chapters for a second. For example, see this nav right here for chapters? I want to grab all of these nav elements. So what I'll probably do is I'll inspect one of these. Okay, so is there a class that hopefully all of these share a class or something that I can use? What was that? List? Oh, the list here? Maybe. Yeah. Oh, well, there's a data content here. Oh, what if I say, I could use this. Now, even though this is not an ID attribute, there is a JavaScript way of targeting any attribute. So I think I'll use that way and just target this number, which I'm sure it's unique. And then I'll kind of like look in the UL, look in the LI, look in the A tag. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. So I'm going to copy that thing. Remember this, data dash content ID. Okay, let's see if I can select that. So this is a new thing. Query selector. If I want to target an attribute that's not the standard ID or the class, what I could do is square brackets, and then the name of the thing was content ID equals whatever I just pasted. There, see, I got it. Now you can already see it, I got the whole thing. So now let navs equal all of that. So console log navs. There, I got the whole thing. Right? If I expand this, you'll see all of that. Now I should have specified I don't want the whole thing. I just want the A tag. Let's try that again. Refresh. So Control L to clear that mess. Let's try that again. Except I don't want the whole thing. I just want the A tag inside the. Does that work? I have no idea. Oh, I should have said all, shouldn't I? My bad. Try it again. Experiment. Okay. I wanted all there. And yes, that looks good to me. Let's see. Okay. So if I expand that, there. Look at that. I got more than I asked for. I got whatever this is. Okay, whatever. Here's the point. Is this an array? Looks like an array, has a square bracket, but it's not an array because it says it's a node list. A node list is different from an array. Let me show you why it's different from an array. Let me show you what a real array looks like. Again, my array equals 1, 2, 3, for example. Whenever you create an array, along with that, when you expand it here, is something called proto. And inside the proto is all the different methods that you can use on that array. And you'll probably see some that you recognize. Here's slice for an array, right? Here's toString. I don't think we've touched that. So all of these are the different things. However, when you're dealing with a node list, what did I name it? I call it nav. So let me do the same thing for navs. Let's see how many proper methods that this has. So let's go to their proto. Here are all the different methods that a node list has. Not many. Okay, so if you're ever coding and you're assuming that you're dealing with an array and you say, dot map, and it gives you an error like dot map does not exist on a node list, well, that's because it's not an array. So a common trick is to transform a node list into an array. So let me do that real quick. Let me refresh for a second. A common trick would be, all of this evaluates to a node list. I need to turn that array into an array. One way to do that is put the whole sucker in an array with the square brackets, but then use the dot, dot, dot. And now navs, if I console log navs, it doesn't give me node list anymore. In fact, if I expand it, it gives me an array. And now I can have other methods like map. That's just all FYI stuff. So let's go into, actually no. Okay, so let's take a break, 20-minute break, and then we'll start right after with our exercise files, okay?
Recommend for like.
I haven't looked at.
My library card in order to.
Yeah, your student card is your library card. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. As long as you have that, that's good.
I don't today, so hopefully I'll get somebody else does. But
Where'd it go? Books. I'm gonna guess this one right here or this one right here.
so JavaScript
For
for
web
web developers or
simplifying.
simplifying JavaScript.
I'm gonna guess this one here if
Okay.
you want. Yeah, this one or this one. However, I think I put a link here. If you're an online, like if you don't want a book, under course information, resources. I thought I put. Oh, it was in the syllabus. I know why. It was in the syllabus. So in the syllabus of this class. Resources. I thought, yeah, there it is. The dev free book under JavaScript. So here, if I copy that link, let's open up. You got free. Actually, even if I take away the past JavaScript, check this out. This is FYI, okay? So this link, devfreebooks.github.io, it gives you all of this. Okay, so JavaScript right here, got 34 possible books. You could try.
These like I've seen that you don't know JavaScript.
Learn JavaScript looks like a possibility. Understanding ECMAScript looks like a possibility. Or another opportunity is you have access to your LinkedIn Learning, right?
I have been playing around with that.
Yeah, so just type in JavaScript, and then I'm sure there's like
I haven't got it in.
it.
I have that course saved in my computer. I just
Oh,
haven't got it into it really yet.
Look at that one. Let me see what they talk about. Content. Data types, arithmetic. Yeah, so these are all very basic, right? So you could watch that, which is faster than reading a book.
I think I might. I think I'm gonna have to sit down in a book, watch videos, practice. I think this is gonna be a chore. I'm used to life being able to like music. I just pick it up like that. So for me to experience something where it's just like, I don't get this. I'm not used to that.
Now the free code camp that I'm making everyone do, that's also helping you. I'm hoping. Now I noticed that your last free code camp, you actually did multiple exercises in the HTML section.
I just
Was that on purpose, or did you?
Yes, it was on
Okay,
purpose.
sorry.
I just wanted to start like.
From scratch, yeah.
what happened was I started part-time,
Yeah.
and then I started doing some part-time classes, just trying to figure out what I wanted. And once I got to the point where I'm committing to this,
Yeah.
it's been a year since I've done the comp1002. Technically a year and a half,
Yeah.
depending on when I finished and started.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now that I'm getting into this, I get it,
Yeah.
but I'm at a practice enough too
Yeah.
that it's sort of
Yeah.
like, I'm a little over my head right now,
Yeah.
and I think I can do it,
Yeah.
but it's just,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to really dig deep.
Yeah, yeah, you have to. Yeah, whenever I came across stuff that was more challenging to me, like you just have to put in the time and try to understand what each line is doing, or not even just each line, like each part of the line, what's the right
Yeah.
side doing, you know. And I'm hoping that debugger trick that I showed you, where you're going
That
back,
was
I'm hoping.
awesome.
Yeah, I'm hoping that'll enlighten some eyes. So, yeah. So yeah, just do the free ebooks or the physical books or the LinkedIn Learning. I'm sure all of them.
Or all three, and hopefully
Yeah, yeah,
if that doesn't work, then I'm SOL, but
Yeah.
that should be okay.
yeah.
Thank you, sir. I'm sorry, what's
Right.
the midterm deadline again? Because you said we can hand it in by
Yeah.
midterm.
So, what did I say? Hold on, weekly learning. Okay. So, it doesn't. I don't give the dates here, do I? Okay. So, oh wait, maybe it's in the course syllabus. Hold on. Syllabus. I do give the dates here. So it's February. Midterm is February 18th, so therefore the day before is February 17th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Oh, hold on. No, I'm right. I was looking at the wrong month. Yeah, all right.
Okay, so it's the 17th.
Yeah, so 17th, yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Give me a second. Let me find you here. I just want to know the spelling of your name. Which one here? This one, Parth?
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, what's up?
So I just want to know like how I can submit this link to.
So what you need to do, don't submit me this where it says /learn.
Okay.
Rather, scroll up for a second. Click this first, which will give you a different URL. This is the URL I want.
Okay.
This is a different URL, right?
Yeah.
That's specific to you, not anyone else.
Okay.
So you email me that. But before you do that, you have to make sure that your portfolio is public.
Yeah.
So scroll down. Or maybe click on here. Update my country. I think is it there? Scroll down. Is it there? Yeah. So privacy settings. No, check here. I said in week 1 what those settings should be. Here. So these 3 have to be public. These 3 in highlighted have to be public. Okay, tell all your friends.
Okay, sure. And then
Yeah.
I have to submit that link.
So now you go back to that show me my public portfolio. So now you get this. That's what I want. You submit that.
And I have to mail this or.
So to submit it, you go to Blackboard, and then look for was it which week? What is it?
1 week.
Okay, go to week 1. And this one. So click on here. And scroll, and paste it.
Oh yeah.
Paste it. There, and then submit. All right. So tell all your friends to do that.
Sure. Thank you.
All right.
went to the stairs, I looked in the window, I saw the birds. Oh my god,
Did you eat it or no? You got it?
I got it. It's true. Like, right. Hey, Rowan.
It's always under.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Reminders.
Before. Yeah.
Pizza. But it's not you. We're gonna be close now. My fault, yeah.
You got it? Oh, thank you.
No, but I should have it done by next week. It's an older Razer data ladder, but if you download the Razer software for it, you can actually customize the PCI. It'll make life in Adobe.
Oh, I just felt like I didn't really use the last time. Because you had jet lag and then you have to.
Oh, that would actually just found it by accident today. I just had one of the bullets and just oh my god, I'm like, okay. So.
That's an idea.
take your time.
Really?
Yeah.
Ah, I see. Yeah, I got it. And this thing here? Yeah.
I don't recall. Yeah, same install. I don't recall doing that though. Let's see what it does. Yeah. I forgot. Okay. Yeah.
It was better second. Yes. Wow, and I think the question is the most
Yeah.
really way easier.
Okay, this strap. No, you don't have to strap. It's really just cooking and making bacon.
Yes.
So, I want to explain. Especially if you have a library of making tables that I write about making tables. So instead of actually tables, why you just have the link and put it there, and then let's say, then they just build onto it.
Yeah.
No, actually, we need to put it there. But then we need to put the box in there.
You still need to make the table in your HTML, but then do style it.
In the strap, yeah.
Yes. Just go to the side. When we come to design, Yeah, just make it flat.
Really? What I usually do is get really things this stuff like
Oh, no.
Okay. So here's a question before we begin with this step one. Why are arrays important? What feature about arrays make it important? We know it's a list, like, you know, square bracket, and then you got, you know, apples, whatever, pears, bananas, etc. What is it about arrays that make it a very nice data structure to use? What particular? I don't want to give the answer away, but what?
you can add stuff and you can add stuff, delete stuff, and it's like interactive. So let's say I have an array of my grocery list. I can actually like input stuff in it, calculate, or
Okay, so you're suggesting that you can add stuff, delete stuff, calculate stuff. You can do that with objects too.
it's dynamic.
Yeah, you could have dynamic objects too, but I think I heard an answer over there. Yeah, the index. It's the fact that it's sequential, whereas objects is not sequential, but arrays are. And that's the beneficial part. Okay, so step one here, where if you were to open up arrays.html, creating an array. So it's real easy. I showed you it before. You can create an array. Just say, you know, const my array equals empty brackets, right? So inside here you could put in any kind of data you want. Now, Adam, you're in Copper. In Java or other programming languages you've experienced, could you do something like this, where in the first element you have a string, the second element you have a number, third element you have a Boolean, fourth element you have another array, maybe fifth element you have an object. Could you have something like this in other languages? Not in Java. All right. I don't know of any other language that can do this kind of thing. So this is unique in JavaScript. You can actually have different data types inside your array, which is kind of cool. But just the big idea is how you initialize arrays is just like this syntax. Question. Step 2. Reading and changing array elements. You can refer to a particular element in an array with its index number. So let me ask you this, Emily. What is, if the index number I want that you were passed was 3, which element are we talking about now in this array? Okay, I'll make it easier. If you were passed 2 instead of 3, what element are we talking about in the array now? And you just said it. Okay, so let's check this out. So if we said console log my array, and you were passed 2, let's see what it would give you. Yeah, let's see. True. Why is my piece still showing there? Oh, because I had that console. Oh, I see. Okay. I'm supposed to also do a console output.text, which I'll deal with in a second. Let's just comment that out for now. So you're right. Wait, no. So you're right. It gives me true because here's 0. We always count from 0. Okay. Here's 1, here's 2. So then my original question to you was, if you were passed 3, what are you then outputted? What are you given back? Null, undefined? How about Rebecca? So if the number 3 was here, what would be returned? What would my array 3 give you? The array 1, 2, 3. Let's test that out. There. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? So even though visually it looks like it's a brain boggler, it's just, think of this as just another element in the array, right? So here's your first element, then you have the comma, second element, comma, third element, comma, fourth element, comma, fifth element. Does that make sense? Yeah, exactly. This is an array with an array. Yeah, perfect. Okay. So if I wanted to, that's how to read an element. What if I wanted to change something? So I could say something like this. I could say, let's move this down. Let's say my array at 2 equals false. And then let me console log my array now. And let's see what we got. So what do you think? Is it Casio? Is it Casio? What do you? So if I said my array of index 2 is now false, and I console log my array, what changes in this array? What changes in particular? Yeah, I would change this to false because 2 refers to 0, 1, 2, right? Let's see. There, so I outputted the whole array. Here's 0, here's 1, here's 2, and now instead of true, it's now false. So that's how to change the array. Simple. Let me go back to outputting this on the web page for a second. So let's say I want to output this on the web page. Let me bring this down here. Oh, I should have. Let's see what happens. I'm just going to console log my array as is. Let's see what happens in both the browser side of things and the console side of things. Okay, that's interesting. Let me just make it even simpler. Let me just go like this. Let me console that. And we'll just have 3. Okay, so here is now my array of just 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to console that out, and I'm also going to put it as a text content on the web page itself. What's the difference in terms of output? There's a couple of character differences here. Yeah, it's missing the square brackets, right? So in here, it doesn't have the square brackets. In here, it has the square brackets. That's because whenever you're doing something like this, where you're outputting an array, and you're trying to, like text content expects a string, right? It doesn't expect an array, which is a complicated object. So what it does is it actually calls a toString method. So here, let me just show you real quick. If I said like let a equals 2, 3, 4. So a is that. But if I say, you could say toString, because toString is one of those methods under the hood in the prototypes that can work with arrays. And it'll give you now the string of whatever was in that array. But notice the double quotes there. And also notice the commas there. Okay, so that's why you see the commas here, because now the array is being passed as a string, and that's why I see the double quotes here. And that's why it's being outputted like that there. Okay, so under the hood, it's actually calling a .toString whenever you're trying to output a complicated object, such as an array, into a text content which expects a string. Cool. What happens if we actually, this is just an aside, if we, instead of an array, what if it was an object, like the A1, B2? I'm curious, let's see what happens. Object, object. It doesn't know how to make that into a string. It still calls toString, but when it does, all you see is object, object. But on the console, it gives you the actual object. What was that? I don't know. That's just the way it renders itself. I don't think it's a browser thing. I think it's actual error, not error, but the actual thing that JavaScript spits out. Like if I take let c equals that, A1, B2, whatever. Now if I say c.toString, see? That's the actual output of the toString method. Yeah.
So, like in Java, when you just ask it to output any variable, it just outputs the toString of that. It runs that toString method.
Is that what happens in Java? Yeah.
Yeah. It does that by default, but it doesn't do that. It just throws you a whole bunch of random.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, JavaScript. I haven't touched Java in ages, but yeah, it's whenever you're trying to output either an array or an object and you're trying to pass it as a string or assign it as like a string, it's going to call the toString method on that. All right. Next, let's say step an array within an array is called a multi-dimensional array. So you could have, for example, let me console. Oops, comment that out. So you could, let's say we have this const my array equals, and you define an array, but then inside that you have multiple arrays. You can have that as you have with other languages. So with an array, that's called a multi-dimensional array. So let me go back to Emily. How would I get this element extracted out? What would I have to pass in my array if I were to say my console log, my r square bracket? What goes in that square brackets to get all of this? Let's test it out. 2. Oh, no, you're right. It's just that my, oh, that's why. There, you're right, 79. Okay. Good. Now, here's a more slightly complicated question. What's your name? Okay, Akil. How would I get this 8? What would I have to console here?
2 and 1.
2 and 1. Let's see if you're right. So you understand what happened there? 2 refers to which element in the array we're talking about. Okay, here's 0, here's 1, here's 2. So now we're dealing with this, right? So this is the result of the evaluation of just this. So now that this returned this, now operate on the the second element, or index 1, which is 0, 1. That output's now 8. Cool. Determining the array length. That's pretty easy. You can just say my r. How do I get the length? Person, what's your name? Inder. What do you think, Inder? How do I get? How would I output the length of my array here? Dot length. Yep. So that should output 3. 3. Which may trip you up if you're trying to access perhaps the last element, right? So let's try this. Let's try to output the last element of the array. Okay. So if I were to say, what would I say here? Console log. Let's make it simpler. Let's go back to apples and stuff. So how would I output the last element of the array? Using the dot length inside that square brackets here. What do you think? Yeah. What's your name? Okay. What do you think goes inside the square brackets? If I want to output the last element of the array in here, what would I pass? I can't say. Can I say this? Can I say that? What would this evaluate to? 3, right? Is there such thing as 3 in here? If the index is 3, 0, 1, 2, 3. Is there such thing as 3? So let's see what happens if I were to run this. So how do I get the last element? Yeah, 2. So how would I make it 2 though? If I'm given my array dot length, how can I make this 1 less than what basic arithmetic would I have to? No? Rebecca? -1, yeah. Make that, force it to be 1 less than the maximum. Right, there you go. So that's a trick. That's a trick you can remember. Keep that in your back pocket. It's always the length -1 to get the last element. Let's see. Well, okay, so you're saying, okay, let's make this dynamic. So let's say we have some more fruits in here, like exactly. That's why this is your trick. It'll always get you the last one.
But if you always want more oranges, and someone adds like mangoes to your list, suddenly you're getting mangoes now. Like, but if you got better, you kind of use index of like 2 every time.
Well, yeah, I mean, what do you want to do? Do you want to get oranges every time or mangoes? Then yeah, then maybe you'd have to change something here, or maybe you have to use something completely different than this. But usually you'd always want to know the last elements in your for loops. Like the reason why I'm teaching you the -1 trick is because in your for loops, you need to know how long your array is. Yeah. So you're eventually in your for loop, you're going to say, you know, for bracket, let I equals 0, semicolon, as long as I is less than my array.length, -1, depending on what you want to do, you know, whatever. Or maybe not -1. It totally depends on what you want to do. But just keep that in mind. Okay, let's see. Looping through arrays. Actually, convert array into a string. So let's try this. So for convert a string to array, let me just move this guy down here. Check this out. If I say, actually, hold on. What did I want to do? I wanted to do not this. I didn't want this for now. Let me comment that out. Let me say I had a string. So const string equals hello world, how are you? Right? I can do something like this. My array equals, take the string and then split it. And inside the brackets, put like a quotations space quotations. And now I'm going to console log my array. So let's see what that does. Refresh. Look at that. It transforms my string into elements inside an array. So that's what split does. And so the reason why we had a space here is because it's looking at each space in that sentence and it's splitting on that. If instead of space, if I had like a hyphen on all of these, now my space won't work. I'm curious, what will my array look like if I have no spaces? Will it be the whole long word? Let's see. Yeah, it's just an array of just one thing. But if I say split on a hyphen, let's see what happens now. Refresh. There. Same as before. Okay. Curious, what if I were to split on nothing? An empty string. Let's see what that would look like. Huh. Interesting. May find that handy. I don't think so. MDM split. I don't know. Let's see. MDM split. Because that's asking a lot. Let's see. The syntax is, okay, you do have an option for a second parameter here called limit, which is a positive integer, or basically a 0 to or more integer limiting the number of splits if provided splits the string at each occurrence of the specified. I've never used that. You can experiment with it. But I think the answer to your situation is no. But later on when we come to dot replace, then maybe yes. Okay, the next one I wanted to try is converting an array back to a string. So here's step 5. I'm going to create an array. I'll call it const HTML. And inside this array, I'm going to put a bunch of markup. So let's try this. I'm going to put similar to what we had before. And inside here, inside each of these, I'll say apples. So here is my array of strings. I want to convert this array of strings into one string. Let me introduce you to the dot join. So if I look at the documentation for dot join, here's how it works. Let's say you have an array, right? And then you say whatever that array name, variable name is, dot join, with nothing in the argument, you get the whole array in one string. But notice it has commas. If you didn't want the commas, then you could say dot join, but pass in an empty string. And now you have the whole string without commas. Or if you inserted a character there, it'll insert that character where the comma was. So I want this one here, because I want all my HTML markup to be together. So what would I say over there in that table with the glasses and the pink sweater? What would you say? How would you say if I were to say console log HTML dot what? So basically, I want all of this to look like, at the end of the day, one big string, like so, etc., etc. What would I say here to transform this array into one big string like that? So I got my array name here, HTML, so I already said that here. I put a dot for you. What comes after the dot? And here's the documentation to remind you. I want it to be one big string without commas. What do you think? Next. Join, yeah. So I'm going to put dot join and pass it an empty string in order to get one big string. So let's try that. So dot join, oops, pass in an empty string. Now it's going to console out. Let's see that in action. There. Now you got the whole thing, one big string. Now here's a thought experiment. So I have an array of this. Question, could I loop over that array? Yeah, you can loop over any array. So the answer is yes, I can loop over array. Next question, inside that loop, could I then create a string that looked like this? Could I create a string that looked like, that uses my backticks for my template literals, and then I have my markup, and then I had my, some kind of variable name, and then closed it up with whatever. Oh, I made a mistake here. It should have been TR here. Okay, that's bugging me. So could I have some kind of, oh, what happened there? Could I, inside my for loop, could I say something like this, where I'm creating a string that kind of looks like this and just substitutes the fruit in there? Can I do that inside my? Can I conceivably do that inside of a loop? Yes. And question: when I finish looping, could I then concatenate all these strings together into one big string like I did here? Yes, because we just did that. Final question: could I then insert that entire big string inside my table markup, inside my table somewhere in my HTML? Yes. This, because let me pause here for a second. Again, I keep on mentioning this in other weeks. This is where JavaScript is nowadays. Instead of, they basically produce HTML on the fly. However, instead of giving you an array like, const my array equals, and then it gives you the data that you need, etc. So instead of hard coding this in your actual code, eventually you're going to use something called a fetch command, which then goes somewhere like, and I showed you this before, api.github.com, where it fetches your data from somewhere here. Or maybe let's get another example here. This API, I think I showed you this before, gives you data. Here, so this one gives me multiple users. So just give me like 2 users. So here, I get the first person of a whole bunch of fake data, and then somewhere down the line, I get the second person right there, beginning here. It's the second object, or the second person. But notice it's all encapsulated in here, an array. So eventually, your JavaScript development will get to a point where you're going to fetch this data, you're going to grab all of this object data, you're going to transform it in your looping into HTML dynamically on the fly that your browser creates, then you're going to spit it on your page. That's what JavaScript has now come in. That's what you use JavaScript nowadays for. Okay, so all the PHP work that you've done before, where the HTML was generated in the server and then spit out, now it's come to let's save bandwidth and just give you the JSON data, and now let the browser take care of the HTML. That's what it's come down to now. Let's see here. Adding and removing items from an array, step 6. So let's go back to our array somewhere. Where'd my array go? Just comment all of this out. Okay, let me just make an array, because I don't have an array. So let's say we have an array. Okay. So the question is, how do I add something to an array? And this is where I'm going to introduce to you 2 methods, 2 possible methods. The most common one is this one here, the dot push method. So here you have an array, such as animals, and then you say whatever that array name is, animals, dot push, and inside the argument you pass in whatever you want to push in that array. The final output will be that array plus your new element at the end. However, so let's try it. So let's say here's my array. Okay, I'm going to console log my array just to test the initial condition of that. I'm then going to add a new fruit called mangoes. So let me ask over Ralph. I want to say, I want an array that looks like this. So I want mangoes to be inserted to the end of my array. How do I do that here in this next line of code based on the documentation here? So it has to look something like this. So what's the first word based on what I have here? I've defined my array to be called what? My R, right? And then so based on this documentation, I need to call the same name as I defined it here. So since the definition of the array is this array is now stored in this variable name, therefore similarly this array is now stored in this variable name. Therefore, what I need to say what? Correct. Now, what goes inside the argument? I want to add mangoes. Mangoes. Right? I just want to insert mangoes to the end of the array. So I'm going to push mangoes, and by saying that, let's test it now. Console log my array. Let's see what happens. So the first console should show the original array. The second console should show the original one plus mangoes at the end. Let's see if that happens. Nope. Yeah, exactly. Oh, my error has already been declared. Let me see. Did I say my R previously? Because that's what it's complaining about. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So I don't need to see that. I just need to say that. Let's see now. Oh, fruit is not defined. Oh, right. That was an example that I commented out. Ah, there you go. So original array, and this is the array now that you pushed it. Does that make sense? Well, yeah. So that's how to add to array. I'm going to show you another way. Braden I'm going to show you another way to add to the array, but instead of the end, I'm going to show you the beginning. So very similar. Here's your array. To insert something to the beginning of the array, you say that array name dot unshift. That's the new keyword, and then pass in your new elements, and then the output will be like that. So how would I insert? Maybe if I wanted a fruit there called plums. So what would I say here in this line here? How would I begin that process? So similar to this, except instead of push, it's something else. So I want to insert plums in here programmatically. But how do I do that here? And it'll look similar to this, except we're going to use the new keyword there. So what do you think? Shift, yeah. Yeah, so I don't want 4, I want plums though. So let's put in plums, yeah? Okay, let's test it. So I anticipate that the first console will output the original array. I anticipate the second console will output the plums before apples. Let's see if that works. There, cool. Good. Okay, now, so those are 2 methods on arrays for adding stuff. I'm going to show you now 2 methods for taking away stuff. So the first one, Maria, let me introduce you to this one right here. It's called .pop. So let's say you have an array like this. If you call .pop on that array, it will output, it will take away the last one and leave behind the remaining ones. Okay? So keep that in mind. I want to take off the last element in the array, which is cherries. And so what would I say, similar to this, what would I say here? Yeah, and there's nothing. You pass in nothing, but you just call it, and let's see what happens. So you have your original array, now you have your modified array. Yeah? If there was more than, say that again? Oh, you can call pop multiple times if you want to reduce it, like multiple times. I suppose you could do that, and usually you'd want to do that for whatever reason. So if I called pop again, so let's do that right now. There we go. I should now have down to 1. Question, Justin.
What do you put in the function brackets?
Nothing.
Nothing?
Yeah. No, I don't think so. Let's check the documentation. I don't know. Let's see. I don't think it does that. So let's look at the syntax. Oh, that's it. It doesn't allow any kind of parameters in there whatsoever.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you'd have to use like splice or something, or slice. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, in the announcements that I said play with this. I don't know if you had a chance to play with that. Let me just show you that real quickly. It's a code. It's a web page created by Sarah Drasner, another guru, especially for the animation side of things. Where if you don't know, you haven't, and you'd like to know, you say, how do I remove items? And I need to remove, blah blah blah, and then it gives you the answer. It's a good bookmark that page. That's good. Okay, so the other method is to remove from an array is shift. So here is an array. If you call shift on that array, it now removes the first element in that array so that you're left with 2, 3 in this example. Okay. So let's go back to here. If I want to remove, what's your name? Janelle? If I want to remove apples, what would I say here? array.shift. Do I call any? Do I pass any parameters at all? No, it's just empty. So let's run this code. There, cool, wonderful. Okay, and I think, let me just double check my notes. I think that's it. Yes. That's it for arrays.html. Any questions before we move on to the next one, which is real quick, called products.html? Yeah, Ivan. Yeah. Let me think. Okay, so here's an example. In my advanced JavaScript, the first time I taught it, this is what I gave as an assignment. I gave them this markup. This is just pure HTML. There's no JavaScript code whatsoever in here. I asked them to use JavaScript so that when the user clicks on compose, some kind of form pops up where they can enter the subject line, the body of the email, whatever. When they click on send, it now appears as the first email in the inbox. So you can imagine that all of this in the inbox is an array of objects. And then unshift unshift on that new email that was submitted, and now it's the first thing in the array. Yeah. Are there questions? Okay. Let's move on quickly to products.html. Actually, hold on. I may end up skipping this entirely. Hold on. Just take a look at this and see if there's anything. Actually, no. We need to do this because there's something in here that you need for your assignment. So, products.html. Oh, I already did it. Let me. I wanted testing. I wanted this one. There we go. That's the empty one I want. So let me open that up into here. Okay, great. Okay, so step one. So basically what we're doing is we're creating a little invoice thing. We're going to list some different items like coffee and it's $5 or these different items with their prices. And then you're going to have a total here, and that's it. So let's try this. Step one, grab the parts of the DOM that we need to build the invoice. Well, let's look at the code for a second. Where in this HTML markup do you think we will insert our items along with their prices? Which element? And let's start with neem. Which one? TH? So I basically want the items to appear underneath product and price. So it's going to say, there's going to be a new row called coffee and $5, another new row called tea and $3. So where in the markup am I targeting? Where do I need to document query select in order to do that? So this is obviously this stuff. But notice there's an empty T body here. So that's what I was looking for. So in here is where all the new rows will begin. So eventually, we're going to eventually have, through JavaScript, we're going to programmatically type in tr, td, and then you're going to have coffee here. You're going to have another one here, td tab, and then $5 here. And then you're going to have multiples of that, except with different products, etc. So that at the end of the day, I want something that looks like this. Okay, so now I don't want to hard code that. I want to dynamically program that to happen. Okay, so what do I need to query select? I need to query select T body is the answer. So let's grab that. const t-body equals, so this is your, what is this? This is, oh, there's nothing yet. This is not even for marks. So let me just do this real quickly. Body. Okay. I'm going to build the products array, step 1b. So I'm going to hard code the items in my array. I'm going to call it coffee. I'm going to delineate it with a colon for all the items, because later I'm going to use that colon to split the price and the items. Okay, so there's my array of products. Step 1c, set up invoice total variable start at 0. So this will be our total. So let's just say let invoice total. I'm using let, not a const, because I'm going to change it later. So now we're going to build a loop to iterate through our array. Let's do that with using a for loop. We're going to get into loops another day where you'll find out there's different kinds of loops. And to be honest, I hardly ever use for loops nowadays. So let's try for loops. Let I equals 0. So that starts at that. As long as I is less than, okay, so here, what would I say as the condition, what's your name? Priam? What would I say here, less than what? What do you think? Less than 0? No, so basically I want to loop over the array, okay? So I'm going to say, would this work? Priam, can I say this? Would that make sense? Yeah, so that's what it is. And then I++, yeah. So I put brackets there. Let's put our step 3 up into that. Okay, our step 3. So this is where we're going to use splits. So you now have practiced the split. We're going to break apart the product name from the price using the split. So again, we're using the split because we've been given this data that has a colon that separates the two things we really want. So I want coffee by itself. I want $2 by itself. I can use the split to do that. So how can I do that? So what if I say const? I'll just give it some name, like item and price equals. So what can I say here? It's using the split command so that at the end of the day, it's going to look like, let me see if I can give an illustration of what it's going to look like. At the end of the day, I'm given an array because that's what a split does. It gives you an array. And at the end of the day, it gives you coffee and whatever the price was, $2. So this is the output of my split. How can I make that happen here? Next, you. What's your name? Okay. What do you think? What was that? Split? Yeah, I'm going to split. What goes inside the split? What character? Colon. Okay, but notice I can't just say dot split. I need something to operate on. What string can I pass it? Or not pass it, but what string can I operate on? I have to pass it a string. Basically, I have to pass it this string. How do I pass it this string? Products like this? What else? Anything else? If I say products right now, it's going to give me the whole array because products is the whole array. I don't want the whole array. I just want that string. How do I get individual elements in an array? Next. Yeah. Right? I put the square brackets, and I could physically put 0 here. I could do that. Would I do that though? Next. What could I do? Instead of 0 here, what can I do that's better than 0? Yeah, you're right. What do you? I. Does that make sense? So because it starts at 0. I is already 0, right? So that each time in the loop, when I increments, so let's say I is now 1, then we're going to get products 1, which is this. Then when it iterates again, when I is 2, then it'll say products at 2, which is 0, 1, 2, which will return this. So let's imagine what's happening. This currently I is 0, so products at 0 is going to give you the first element in the array. So this is the output of just this. That's what JavaScript does. It evaluates this as this string. Now, if you say that string dot split colon, that means it'll go look for the colon and then output an array that looks like this. Does that make sense? Make sense? No? Yes? Okay. So that means let's console log it. I anticipate this console log to look like this for all the products. Let's see. Control-Shift-J. Make sense? Okay, step 4. Oh, yeah, question.
Does it make it a multiple? The item price is an array of 3 items, and each item is now an array of 2 items, or is item price just specifically one array with those 2 items?
One array with those 2 items.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. So item in price is one array. Yeah, so this is item in price right here. Item in price is a variable name or a container that just contains this one array of 2 strings. So it's not a multi-dimensional array in this case. No. So step 4. Now that we have an array as an element in an array, set the second array element to, what does that say? To the product price as a type number. Oh, I think you know what, let's skip that. I don't want to do that. I'll do it a different way. Let's go to step 5. Add the price of this product to the invoice total. Okay. So did we define invoice total somewhere? Yes, we did, up top. However, I'm noticing it changed my constant to a let, I think, which I didn't want. I wanted a let. Now, here, step 5, let's say invoice total equals, or maybe plus equals is better, plus equals what? What's, who's next? Prath, what do you think? What goes here? I want to add this $2, which is coming from, so item in price is now in an array, but I don't care about coffee. I just care about the $2 that I want to add. How do I access that $2 given this line here? So what do I say to access that $2? Yeah, right? Let's see what happens if I console log that invoice total. What happens? Uh-oh. What happened? What do you think happened? It's not doing math. What's it doing? String concatenation. That's not what we wanted. So we need, it's interpreting this, it's returning a string. And whenever you're doing, something plus a string, it'll probably, treat it as a string. So what do we need to do is we need to say parse float to treat it as a number. Okay, so let's try that, parse float. Refresh, there we go. So now we get actual numbers, the data type number. So step 6. Capture each product name and price as variables. Okay, so this is where, again, as a reminder, our item and price equals an array, and the first element in the array is coffee, for example, for the first one, and $2. Okay, so step 6 is I want to separate these into different variable names. So I want the coffee to be in its own variable. I'll call it item equals something. I want the price to be in its own variable, so price equals something. So what do you think, starting with Ivan? How can I just extract the coffee out of item and price? And so basically, what do I want? What do I put here? Yeah. And similarly, how do I get the price? Yep. So let's test that out. Let's comment that out. Let's console log our different things. So I'm consoling now our item and our price just to see. Again, I could use the debugger. I don't have to keep on consoling. I could just use debugger, which I showed you earlier. So look at that. It's now console logging each of these things, but they're now in their own different variables. So this is the item. This is the price. Okay. Step 7. Okay, this is where Scott and I differ. So he wants us to create a TR element using, the document.create element and pass in the TR. I don't want to use that. I just want to use inner HTML. So I'm going to skip step 7. I'm going to skip step 8. That is the same thing. And then we're going to go right to step 9 here. So set the above string, which we haven't yet created, as the inner HTML of the new TR element, then append that new element to the T body. Right. So using what you learned with inner HTML, let me give that question to Justin 1. So I want to put basically my new HTML. Actually, let's form our new HTML first. Okay, let's forget about the left-hand side. Let's just care about the right-hand side. Right-hand side. I want to create markup that looks like this. Then inside here will be coffee, and then inside the second TD will be the $2. How do I make that happen? Here. So what string? I'll start you off. Here's backticks. I'm using template literals. So what do I put inside my backticks to create this string? I'll start you off. TR. What comes next? Yeah, TD. What comes next? So remember the template literal, the $ squiggly brackets? That's what comes next. So what do I put in here? What variable name? What do you think, Justin? I want coffee, which currently is represented by this. So I put there. I put item there for you. Okay. So let me continue along with that. So TD TR. Oh, sorry, not TD TR. And then we have another TD. And then what goes inside here? What's your name? Across from Justin and Ivan. What's your name? Yeah, what's your name? Okay, yeah. So what goes inside here, do you think? Yeah, price, right? Then we'll end the TD, we'll end the TR. So that's our string. That's what's happening on the right-hand side. Let's assign that string into an inner HTML of our T body. So our T body, if you recall, was back up here. So theoretically, if I say tbody.innerHTML equals my string, that means it should gradually. Actually, this won't work quite yet. Let's run it though. Let's run it. Let's see what happens. What's happening? Where my other? Where I see my donut, my dollar. What's happening? Why don't I see my? It's just getting the last element. Yeah, but why? Let's try the debugger. Let's try that. Actually, what time is it now? Forget the debugger. We still have the labs to do. Here's what's happening. I'm not accumulating. I'm just assigning here. right? So whatever is inside the T body gets wiped away because I just have an equal sign and gets replaced by just one line of code. I don't want one line of code. I want multiple lines of code of multiple items. So what do I do here to fix that? Anyone? Yeah, so if I put plus equals here, right? That's the same thing as saying tbody.innerHTML equals tbody.innerHTML plus the new string. Right, so let's run that. Done. Almost done. We still have to do the total. I'll leave that for you to try because we're running out of time. We still have to do the lab. Okay? But it should be simple. Any questions, comments? Yeah, code backup. Yeah, again, this is screencasted, which I'll put on YouTube. So, sorry, I thought this was the one where you needed something for your assignment. I'm mistaken. It's actually the lab. So let's push through to lab. We got how many more minutes? We got 30, 28, 20 minutes. Okay. Do you still need it? Yeah. So let's download the lab 2 for marks. Or sorry, lab 3 for marks. Keep in mind, I put here that you have to host it under your Netlify this time, and I'll take away 0.5 marks if it's not hosted, just to force you to try uploading it. So basically, every exercise from here on in, always host it. Okay, so I'm going to download this PDF for instructions. Here it is. Here's the instructions, random story generator. Here's a GIF of what's happening. Basically, every time you click on generate random story, it creates a new story. The story is already hard-coded except for a few different variables. So the name can be whatever you type here. So if I type Georgian here, now it's Georgian. If I change it to metric and then generate it, it now changes from Fahrenheit to Celsius, kilograms instead of pounds. So that's what's happening. So let's download that start.zip file. And I think I'm going to just change it up on the fly here. Okay. This is what I want you to try to do, because every class I always want you to try to do some kind of group work or on your own stuff instead of me talking. And I want you to struggle with this while I'm here. So open up your code, start working on it, work with a partner. Where'd it go? And you're given in the comments section what to do, I believe, in the JS. So here, sillystory.js. So here under the different steps, it's giving you what to do, and you just have to figure out how to do it. And so the one I wanted to point out, which will help you in your assignment, is this function right here. Hold on, let me just disable my ESLint for a second because I don't want the red squiggly lines to. There we go. So this function right here is going to help you for your assignment. I want someone to tell me what this function does, and let's try. Who wants to try? Ivan, go. Was that?
I think I know.
Yeah.
That's going to get a random number between 0 and 1, I think.
Yeah, so it's between 0 and 1, but 0 is inclusive, 1 is exclusive. So it's not, it'll never reach 1. It'll reach 0.9999, but yeah.
And then multiply by your array length, so whatever your array.
Yeah, so if your array length is 10, now it'll generate 0 to 9.9999. Rounded down. So now it's giving you 0 to 9. Correct. It would never pick 0, 10 in the way this is formed. Yeah. So, but that's maybe that's how it should be, because if you're passing it an array of 10 elements with indexes from 0 to 9, then you never want like a off by 1 here, right? Yeah. Yeah, so in your assignment, when let's say you have an array called nouns, and in that array you have, the cat, the dad, whatever it was, and then you had verbs, and then you had like danced with, and I'm trying to do the voice too, 8, you know, whatever, and then you have more stuff. And then so what you could do is you could pass this nouns inside here by calling, you know, what's the name of this function? It's called random value from array. So I'll call it, and I'll pass it my nouns. So that means this whole thing is being passed in here, which means this array is now being passed in here. So this is 2. So this is going to give me 2. So math random of that will give me 0 or 1, basically. So all of this will give me 0 or 1. That's it. So that means array of 0 will give me the cat. Array of 1 will give me the dad, right? But because it's using the math random, it'll give me either the cat or the dad, and that's it. So it's returning either the cat or it's returning the dad. Does that make sense? Yeah. So now it doesn't take too hard to figure out, okay, well, I need a button on my web page, and I need to attach a click event handler to that button. And whenever that button is clicked, maybe I should run this function. You know, so that's the kind of thing. Okay. So usually for labs in class, I would demonstrate the in class for you. However, I want you to struggle with this with a partner in your group, with someone that you can talk through it. And I'm going to post the answer online on YouTube. Okay? But I do want some group work to happen right now, because I know what happens as a student. You're sitting there, you're sucking in all this information, but really you're not sucking in this information, because the real learning happens when you do something. So try, struggle, fail, succeed. Okay? I'll be around if you need questions. Save that. Okay, so you're getting the same statement. It's just showing you don't have. So, let's see. Oh, you did say console. So that means the recognition is 3. Okay, I should see 3 things console. So what? Is it? I know. I see it. Look. Does that make sense? This code should be up here. So that should be. Sorry, what's your name again? How do you spell that?
T-O-U-K.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to find
Mine is about first class. Yeah. So
Oh, okay. All right. Got it. Okay. Yeah. Here,
I got an error. I don't know why. If I say I wrote this code, but say
what does it say?
type error.
Assign to a constant variable. So I bet you somewhere you said const instead of let. Is that true? So this one, where is this defined? Up above. Where's invoice totals defined up above your code? There. See? So const means it can't change.
Yeah. Okay.
Let means it can change. Yeah, that'll work. That should work. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. And remember, you can use the debugger that I showed you this morning. Okay, may I bring your attention before you go? I just modified on Blackboard and I inserted a YouTube link of me teaching last year of this very same thing, where I did do it in class, so you could just follow along. So under weekly learning, under arrays for week 3, I have now inserted this line here where it says code along with me and learn how to do this lab, and I put a YouTube link and I forwarded the YouTube link to the 1 hour 30-second mark so that it just forwards right to the part where I talk about the lab. So just follow that along, submit that, you get your 1%. Okay? But I want you to try it first. Don't rely on me. Like, I want you to struggle because the learning is in the struggle, right? So I'll see you next week. What's your name again?